All right. I guess that'll get your attention. It's great to see each one of you this morning, and we pray that you've had a good night. And so glad that you're here. Uh, it's good to see you in worship or in Bible class, but it's also encouraging to me that you're here and because of such knowledge that you all have of Scripture, and that's an encouragement to me, because if I make a mistake, someone's going to point that out, and I will make a mistake. I am human, so I will mess up. But we're going to watch out for each other. Before we start our class today, we want to remember some people in prayer. Pee Wee is going to direct that prayer. Of course, I'm having tests on the 19th, and I guess that'll determine which direction they go with the heart valve replacement and when that'll be. So I've had 2 tests. I passed both of those, so I'm doing okay. Remember Danny Watts, he's responding and continued to improve. Now, a good friend of ours and the Jeff Coates and the Reeds from Clarksdale, Mary Sanders, and some of you others may know her, but she was rushed to the hospital with a brain bleed. They thought she had a stroke. But this morning, she is awake and she is responding to commands or whatever they're asking her. So remember to keep Mary Sanders in your prayer. Who else do we need to remember today? John Ayers. Anyone else? Still sick, but improving and aware. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Mary Sanders from Clarksdale. James Maples.
We don't know really what's wrong with him, but he will not eat, and he's just losing tons of weight, just weak, and he's going to starve to death if he doesn't
Yeah,
eat.
but he doesn't eat, so. But
Food doesn't taste good.
yeah, I wished it didn't taste good to me, but that's.
But I don't want to be in his shape.
Yeah, but I don't know what it's like not to want to eat, because everything I eat makes me swell up, and Benadryl doesn't do any good. So, but anyone else we need to remember in our prayers? Who? Mike Swindle, okay, from Delta Muffler up here, is still in ICU. Youth trip today. What else? All right. Pee Wee's going to lead. Oops. Oh, right. No, Jim's having the MRI. What?
More tests related to when he got sick last month.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, Pee Wee. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go off script a little bit. Where were you? Do you remember where you was at this time in 2001? You know, we were all in different locations at work or whatever, and there's always a caption somewhere, you know, may we never forget. And as I was thinking about that, then, you know, of course, I was born during World War II, but I learned about the war, and I learned about the depression before that from my parents and from older people that were around. And I know that how they emphasized, even in both situations, that prayer, church attendance was very important. Do you remember how how every building was full after 9/11? How the nation, you know, came together and began to enter into petitions to God for maybe for answers, but for results or whatever it was, but that we forget. And then I fast forward until 2020. And one of the things that sticks out in my mind from all those other, you go back to any crisis that we faced, whether it was as a nation or as a world or as a family, our first impulse is what? Prayer. Because we know who can handle the whole situation. We can give it to God and let Him be in control. But as everybody who is a student in the other building over there, with the exception of the adult class, was not around in 2001. And how they're going to remember is because we're going to have to teach them. I think about the pandemic. You know, this virus that we're still affected with. It, you know, it's still contagious. It's still around. And I'm not just saying that it's not in your daily prayers, but did it not affect the nation as much or more than 9/11? 9/11 was 3,000 plus lives. What has the virus taken just in Mississippi? Many more thousands than that. And I know that we were faced with a situation of not meeting in this building. But how many people have not come back to be a part of a gathering like this, worship service or what, and to be in prayer and receiving the strength and the courage from each other as we walk through this road of life that we travel upon. And I want to ask you one more question. I don't remember the year, but it was in February. And I remember the newspaper article or the front page on the commercial appeal was February the 2nd. And in the clear blue skies over the state of Texas, you saw the parts and pieces and the smoke and the vapor trail of the shuttle that that exploded. But what I remember most about that caption that was underneath that picture was, "All is lost." I'll never forget that, because that's a challenge to me as I walk through each and every day. Is everyone I face and have the opportunity to share the gospel with, are they going to be lost? Where's my responsibility? And as we go in, and I use that kind of as an introduction to get into our class today. Remember what we're dealing with today? Teaching yourself or learning to be a better leader. A question I have for you right now is, we talked about from Ecclesiastes where that one strand is easily broken, but 3 cords, is much stronger. Your question today is, what cord did you add to your life this last week? The challenge was before you. It is before you now. What did we do? What about I don't know what to add to my life. I don't know what to make me a better leader. Well, turn to Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. Some of you know where that is. You know what it is before you ever get to it. It's commonly referred to as the fruit of the Spirit. And if you're looking at those and you look at that and it says love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. Did you add any of those to your leadership role? Did you add any of those that would encourage you and to build you up and make you stronger and have more effect upon people as you go through each and every day? But the love, joy, peace, happiness, those things that build you up, they make you stronger. And one more thing I thought about was in 2 Peter chapter 1. Beginning there in verse 5, it says, but also, let's see, wait a minute, make sure I got my 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5. Okay. But also for this very reason, give all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and self-control to godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if these things are yours and abound in you, you will be neither barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. You remember what the fruit of the Spirit, what was the first thing that you gained, that He wanted you to be in your life? Was love. The Christian graces that you read from 2 Peter, and you do all these things, and what do you end up with? Love. Love is the beginning, love is the end. Those things can build us up and encourage us and make us a better leader. And you say, well, another challenging verse or set of verses come from Matthew chapter 25, verse 31 through the rest of the chapter. And that is where the question was asked, y'all, or this statement was asked, and what you may have seen on Facebook or some other place, what are the most scariest words that you can hear? You ever thought about that? What's going to strike fear in me more than anything else in my life, into my mental knowledge and know of? And I know you can be thinking about death of a parent or loss of a loved one, loss of a child, and go on and on. But in Matthew chapter 25, there's words that should strike fear in each and every one of us, and that we do the very best we can each and every day to grow in this leadership, to grow in this knowledge, and that is, depart from me, I never knew you. Now, I know, standing here today on September the 11th, that if I spend eternity in hell, I'm going to know it ain't nobody's fault but mine. And I think that's going to be as much of a mental pain and anguish as it is the heat, the darkness, and all that is, because I can know I don't have to be here. So be thinking about that as you struggle. I mean, it's a struggle to learn to be a better leader, to add things to your life that will encourage you and build you up to the point that I am a maxed amount of influence that I have upon somebody else. Now, are we all going to affect people, and as many people, the same way? No. You can take the parable of the talents. You know, we don't know all the situation there, but we all have different abilities. We all have different talents. We all have different skills. We all have different amounts of time. You know, so it's a lot of things, a lot of variables that go in there. But you've got to put yourself in one of those positions. You are in one of those positions. And so you want to encourage yourself each day as you get up. Thank God that you're alive, but then ask, how can I better myself today? How can I work on me today? How can I make me me? And as we studied through last week, we got through quite a bit, and we kind of finished up where Jesus has gone through the temptation, and we see that the temptations he faced, that two of those were inside of him. That was hungry because he hadn't eaten, so bread was a temptation. There was a temptation inside of him that he could cast himself down and he wouldn't be hurt. But the other one came from outside. So as he had, do you deal more with your inside problems than you do with those that are on the exterior? I do. Why do, those things that are done in secret, that's between you and God. You get to work with God on those. It's just you and him. And you can overcome these, and you can become better and stronger because it is within you. But now let's think about the things that are external, that are outside of this body, and that we see each and every day. We see how people are treated. We see how we treat people. And how do we react when we're mistreated? You're not nearly mistreated, and I'm not nearly mistreated as much as Christ was. He had the ability to do any and everything he wanted to, but the only thing he really wanted to do was what? Obey God. To do God's will. That's your challenge as you become and want to become better leaders and a better influence within the community and to those you work with and to those that cut you off when you're driving down the road, you know. That was a really good thought, and it just went away. Oh, man. But as we think about that, do you have a greater challenge within yourself than you do out of what you say, you know, what you hear, or things like that? So are these people, are people affecting you more, or are you affecting yourself more? And I affect myself a whole lot more than the outside world does, because my mind can run a thousand things per minute. And we, you know, sometimes we're trying to concentrate. Have you ever been reading, and I'm going to use the Bible as a reference today, but have you ever been reading that and then got through with the verse and says, what did I just read? Well, when I do, then I think, well, what was I thinking about when I was reading? I went to I don't know if it was a motivation conference, but something that the company wanted us to go to, and we went, and the guy was up there speaking, and he was talking about this mind of ours, and he says, you know, our minds is as great as it is, and that the capacity that it has can only think on something of about 3 seconds. And he said, just to prove you that I'm wrong, how many of you just said, oh, I can think about something longer than that? Well, you don't quit thinking about what he said. Sometimes we face that when we're reading and studying is, yes, we've read the words, but it didn't sink in. We read the words, but we didn't put it into context. You've read the chapter, Becoming a Better Leader. How many of you said, I'm not a leadership think of the word in a minute. I'm not leadership material. But we are. We are. And the reason why I say that is, remember your past days, who you looked up to, who accomplished something that you really liked, who was somebody who you mimicked as you went on through life. We look up to different people, and the different people look up to us. The challenge is us for there to be that quality of leader that we need to be. Now, I want to go into do you know what your mission is? You ever thought about your mission upon this earth? When we were younger, we wanted to be such and such. I wanted to be a forest ranger. I really did. I read everything I could find on it. I wanted to work in the outdoors. It didn't happen. Because that wasn't my mission. Even though that was a desire that I wanted to do, but as I began to grow older, my passion changed. The things that I really like to do. You know, as a child, we don't like to take out the garbage. We don't like to clean up our room. We don't, just the list goes on and on of the things that we don't like to do. As an adult, you still don't like to do those things. But it's a challenge. If you can do the things that present the most challenge to you, not that it's hard, not that it's complicated, not that it's stressful, I just don't like to do it. But if you improve upon those things if you improve upon your faults, and those are here. Those faults these things we're just kind of talking about, they're here. They're in our mind. When we can whoop them, guess what I can do for you and what I can do for other people. Think of how encouragement I have, because I'm no longer beating myself up, but I am putting myself out there because I have a mission. Because it's, I have a passion. The first thing it is, you've got to just figure out what you really like to do. And chances are, of course, many of us are retired. But did we do what we really wanted to do, what we had a passion to do? And the answer to that is yes. So when we take that, and then the second thing we want to do is we want to do what we're good at. Are you good at what you do? Are you good at what you used to do? We all were. We were good at it. We had a passion for it. We liked it. We enjoyed it. We had the knowledge. We had the experience. We had all it took to accomplish those two things. Now, the third thing is, where does the will of God fit with those two? When our mission is when we have something that we like to do, that is our passion, and then we have the knowledge and the experience and the want to do that, and then we put those, and if they intersect with God's will, it's sometimes hard to figure out what God's will is. Sometimes we don't have as clear of a picture as Jesus did when he says, not my will, but thy will be done. Well, we know that with God and Jesus says, if you love me, you will do what? Keep my commandments. If we love God, guess what we're going to do? Even with our mission, with our passion. When you do something, do you do it to the glory of God, or do you do it just to please yourself? Yes, Jimmy.
One thing we can always know is the will of God. That's when we start thinking we don't know the will of God, or we don't know it, then we're looking at our will.
Yeah.
That's where we have the problem. The will of God is like Jesus knew it. We can know his will always. When we start thinking, I don't know the will of God, I better start checking myself because I've not looked at it long enough to know it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and I've always do, we're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's the human side of it. What we need to do is that what we like to do is what God wants to do.
Yeah.
And that takes the leadership, patience, and training
Yeah.
that you talked about.
And when those intersect, what I like to do, what I have the talent to do, and when I get those to work with the will of God, then we're leaders. We're leading lost people to Christ. We're strengthening each other. How many of you are going to gain strength from being here today? I know I will, because I'm going to put some effort into Bible class. I'm going to put some effort into the songs. I'm going to put some effort into the message that's going to be delivered today. So when I leave today, my empty cup's going to be full. In fact, it's going to be running over because of I want to be better tomorrow than I was today. And I want to be better next week, Lord willing, than I am today. So let's work on those issues, trying to get everything to mesh together. You ever had a frustrating day? I do. Especially when somebody brings me a piece of furniture and just sets it onto my carport and leaves a note, fix it. You know. And sometimes that's, it can be frustrating until you think about it and you kind of figure it out. Well, the person had confidence in what I could do. I would tell you about somebody who brought me something, and when I checked it, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. But that's another story for another time. But do what? Martha Lynn brought me a lamp and says, "Can you replace the wiring or something on it?" And I said, "I'll give it my best shot." You know what my best shot was? Walk over and plug it in. The light came on, and I really hated to tell her that, but anyway, I fixed it. So, but we want to do those things, and those things maybe sometimes embarrasses us a little bit. You ever tackled a new job and somebody asked you a question and you could not answer that question? How did it make you feel? What'd you do? You just forget about it, move on? No, you went and studied or figured out or asked questions until you could answer that question. What does the Bible tell us to do with questions? We're to be prepared what? To give an answer.
Sometimes it's our nature to take the easy way out. It's our nature to take the path of least resistance.
Okay.
And he just said something earlier this morning in class about, eternal life. Either be in heaven with God, or we can be
Yeah.
in hell. And that really should stop us and let us think, really, should we go ahead and, if you want to look at it this way, suffer the pain and just go on and just fight that resistance throughout your life
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
Now, what's scary is a lot of us, and I'm gonna count myself in too, that sometimes, like I said, we just don't wanna create a conflict, we don't wanna create resistance, or we don't wanna fight resistance. So we said, well, you know what, it's gonna be all right. I just bite the bullet.
Yeah.
But one thing just now really hit me is, if I go to hell, ain't no biting the bullet. I'm there for eternity,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna get, I don't have, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I won't have a second chance. Right now, we all have a second chance
Yeah.
to redeem ourselves and get back right and go where we're supposed to be going.
Yeah.
So we better think really hard about which path do we need to take now or later.
Yeah.
It's like maybe now or maybe later.
Yeah. And you think about that, you know, the choice of either heaven or hell, but you think about the rich man and Lazarus. Who was the most uncomfortable upon this earth? Was it the rich man? Or was it the man who begged for food and had sores and was hungry and sick? And so who had the challenges today on earth? Well, it was Lazarus. But then when the rich man opened his eyes in torment, what did he see? Where was he at? Where was the beggar at? Where was the sick man at? Where was the poor man at? Abraham's bosom. So, yes, we're going to face struggles and difficult, and we're going to have the hard path today because that's just the way of life.
Also, I guess sometimes we don't realize, and I'm going to give speak for myself, that sometimes we don't think it's real. But if we are Christians, we better wake up and realize that it is real.
Yeah.
We better just get with it and just do what we're supposed to be doing before it's too late. Because it can't be too late.
Yeah.
Like I said, every morning I wake up, get out of bed. This is another blessing that the Lord has given me to redeem myself,
Yeah.
to be better and improve myself better. And I'm not talking about the physical part, I'm talking about the spiritual
Right.
part.
How many second chances do you need? I've had a bunch of them. All right. One of the things that kind of frustrates life to some people is that of self-leadership is that the very first thing is people owe you nothing. Nobody owes me a thing. Unfortunately, we've got some people who feel like they are owed everything, but we're not owed. Nobody owes us a thing. So if you're going to develop it, you're going to build yourself up. It's going to come from you. It's not going to come from somebody else. Nobody else can put this on you. You know, they can they can give you a title, but that doesn't mean you're going to live up to it. Second thing is, you are best leader of you. No one can direct you any better than you can, and choose the hard way. If you choose the hard task first, the simple ones seem much easier, much simple, and that. But choose the hard path as you are working on yourself. Work on those things that you know that are hard. I know people who have a hard time controlling their temper. I know people who have a hard time controlling their mouth. Not so much that they're using curse words or anything like that. So what comes out of a lot of people's mouth a lot of time is negative. Or they're talking about gossip, talking about somebody. It could be true, but does it do the person any good? So we know people like this. We know people who always think that they have the worst health conditions in the world. Because I've had people in my family, the last thing you ever asked them was how you felt. Because you were going to get how they felt, you know, and you weren't ready for that, you know. Instead of just driving, I don't feel good, and then leaving on, well, you know, I'm A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. So choose the hard path. Those things that you're really having difficult with, work on them. And then stay in your lane. Now, what do you think he's trying to say when he says stay in your lane? I'm going to need help on this one. What do you think it means? Mind your own business is one thing. Yeah. What else?
Don't have expectations of others that they may not.
Expectations of others. Okay. What else? Know yourself. If I'm choosing this path, this task to do, and there's a person over here doing another task, whose task do I need to be mindful of? My own. Stay in my lane. Now, if I get to the end of this task, this person needs help, then help that person. But don't take it over. Don't take it over. Let them stay in their lane. Let them continue to do, because guess what? They're working on their leadership ability. They're working on themselves to become a better leader.
Being humble, knowing where you're supposed to be in their being, not putting yourself down, but also not putting yourself above. Just being humble. Is that correct?
Yeah. We're going to stop there, mostly because time's up. But think about these things that we talked about last week and this week. Improve yourself. Encourage yourself. And as you're encouraging and building yourself up, everybody else is going to be the better for it. Thank y'all. I love you.